Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Pacific Rim.
That's right. Okay, basically Pacific Rim is a story of an alien invasion taking place on Earth, but the aliens do not come from outer space. As a matter of fact, they come from another dimension, and they come out of the Pacific Ocean. And it's the story of basically how the world has to fight back and conquer the aliens and take back their own world.
Well, Brandon, I'll go first.
Okay.
Here's how I felt about Pacific Rim. This movie made me feel like walking right back into the theater and riding that roller coaster again. Right. I thoroughly enjoyed this film, Brandon, and I thought it was great fun. Not like the most super deep thing I've ever seen or anything, and I did feel like a lot of things about the third act were a little bit conventional and kind of what you'd expect. Like I thought that it did get a bit too predictable at the end. That's really the only complaint I have about it. And yet it's that kind of movie. This is like classic summer blockbuster material. This is like 90s summer blockbuster material. And I just thought it was a lot of fun. I love Del Toro as a director, I always have, and this is what we got with the Hellboy movies as far as like scope, not just of the world plane, which was great because you got to see not just a whole bunch of fights of mechs versus a bunch of different kinds of awesome looking monsters. But you also got the kind of scope of here's a little bit. You never got a ton of anything, but it was like here's a little bit of the politics of what things are like in the world, constantly being attacked by these giant monsters, and here's some of the culture, even a tiny snippet of like religious aspects, and I thought it was really cool that we got all that culture and all of that mythology. But then also the scope of the sets and of like what the world looks like. Del Toro always does these really beautiful, immaculately conceived like rooms, and also just like big sets of places, and it's alien, but not to the point of that it was in Hellboy 2, because it is our world. Anyway, it was a really great looking film. I thought all the CG integrated really well, and obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about it here in a second, but obviously, I'm definitely feeling it. I really, really enjoyed this. More as just a giant, fun action thrill ride than anything. Though I did like the characters, even though they were all certainly archetypes. Good.
Okay, this movie made me upside down here. Made me feel like Iron Man was on steroids, and then he ate War Machine, and then took more steroids. This movie definitely had a lot of robot action, I would say. It was pleasantly surprising to me. I very much enjoyed this movie. I went in knowing nothing about this movie other than a scant part of a preview that I'd seen and thinking that this could be awesome. I knew basic premise. You had these giant machines fighting. That was what I knew about this movie.
Me too.
So I came into this movie and I didn't know what to expect, and I came out pleasantly surprised. I will agree, it was definitely what you would call it was almost a generic summer blockbuster, but I felt that it brought a little bit of originality to the table, and I very much appreciated that. I liked that. Like you said at the end, I felt it was mildly predictable. There were some things that I didn't catch, but I was disappointed that they went one direction and not another with the main characters. It would have been, I think, more gratifying to me and more emotional had they done one thing over another.
Were you hoping for a more tragic ending?
I was.
Than the more kind of optimistic thing we got?
I was, But this movie, I was definitely feeling it. I'm feeling it. And I recommend it. Also, I want to add, if you go and see it, stay through the credits.
Yeah, I'm glad you added that because we almost didn't, and then I was glad that we did. I gotta tell you, one of my favorite things about the movie was the minor role that Ron Perlman played, and this being a Del Toro film, I should not have been surprised to see him, but then there he was, and he was hilarious, and
absolutely over the top hilarity.
Yeah, and you know what? That's really the best way to describe the entire movie. It's preposterous.
It's preposterous and over the top, but in a great way.
Yeah, in an absolutely great way, and I felt like it was consistent throughout. I felt like this was a movie that clearly the people making it were having a freaking fun time putting together, and I always love to see that with a movie like this. Right out the gate, I feel like the rules are established very well. I would have appreciated it done in a different way other than voiceover at the beginning, but that's a minor thing. That's just kind of a you know, the pet peeve of mine. I think you could manage that in a different way. However, there was a thing that you get a lot in movies like this that I thought the very premise of the film made work better than it's usually done, and that's the flashbacks.
The flashbacks, yeah.
Because there is a natural device built into the film in how people have to link minds in order to work the machines.
And they call it a rabbit, but I won't explain that. But it's called a rabbit, so look for that.
They share each other's memories, and so then that's how they do flashbacks in this movie. So the flashbacks never came out of left field, and I really thought that was quite a cool way to manage it.
Also, I felt that with regards to necessarily the preposterous aspect of the film, the technology is all grounded in a lot of reality, with the exception of the interdimensional.
And how they transport them.
Yes, how they transport them. I had a problem with that. There's one scene where they're moving some robots, and I'm like, that could never happen. Those robots are just too heavy.
Yeah, they use helicopters, and Brandon turned to me and he was like, no.
They couldn't use. There were. I said 6, but there were actually 8. I counted them later. They would never transport with 8. But the technology is grounded in reality, very much so. There were some amazing visual effects in this. Also related to computer screens was what I found the most visually appealing in this movie. I thought it was very well put together. Yeah, it was very well put together. It flowed very nicely. I felt the pacing didn't move too fast. I didn't have a problem with the voiceover at the beginning, though.
Oh, okay.
The little montage they had, you'll see little bits and pieces of things here and there. And it was interesting how the original time of the beginning of the movie takes place in and around present day, the very first thing that they had, and you can tell that because they don't mention a specific time frame, but they have a quick shot of Obama, just very briefly in the very opening.
Well, but you also know what the date is that the events start.
Right.
Because they give you 2020.
Yes.
Honestly, I gotta tell you, Brandon, I would have preferred the film to have been set farther in the future, especially because of some of the bizarre fashions that people were wearing. I felt like this was a heightened, different sort of reality, and it's easier to get away with that if you go farther into the future.
That's
7 years from now, we're going to sit down and watch this, and it's going to be present day now. And a lot of futuristic science fiction is doing this these days, where it is for us watching it in the theater the day it's put out, and I wish they'd gone a little bit farther ahead.
I can see exactly where you're coming from. I hadn't thought about it at the time.
Again, another pet peeve of mine. Yes. It irritated me in I Am Legend. It irritates me here.
No, I completely see where you're coming from.
What did you think of the monsters?
The monsters were really interesting. There were some aspects of the monsters that I didn't buy, but they're enormous. They're absolutely gigantmo.
It was kind of hard for me not to just kind of sit in my seat like a little kid and be like, hey, this is fun. Like, I like giant monsters, but I've never been a big mech guy, and this movie made me appreciate both. It was like, this is what we'd have to do if we didn't have Power Rangers or Powerpuff Girls or superheroes to save us.
Although I will say, as we both thought the same thing at the same time when a particular weapon was used by one of the mechs.
Oh yeah, no,
and
I don't
we're
mind.
Thinking
Well,
that
yeah, I won't give that away.
They're drawing from a whole lot of other stuff
Yeah,
here, which was really cool.
It was really fun. I just thought this movie had a great energy to it.
It did.
Like nothing felt generic. It was a world that sucked me in right away.
Right, and I did feel for the characters, and like I said earlier, I would have gone with a more tragic ending. There was tragedy in this, but it didn't go the direction I thought it probably should have.
Again, I don't mean to be too critical of this, because like I said, I did really, really enjoy it. But I do feel like by the third act, the humans get kind of lost in the shuffle. Like it becomes, of course, in the big climactic battle at the end, a lot more about the big mech robot versus the monsters.
It does,
and you do know who the characters are, and you're invested, or I was, and I'm invested, and I care about them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not sure that they moved beyond archetypes enough for me to care more about them than I did the giant monster fights. That's the thing. And like you said at the end, when it's kind of the obvious sort of optimistic ending, I felt like that was a little bit of a cheat. I would have cared more about those people had they not gone there. Another thing that I thought was a little bit strange is, as much fun and over the top as this is, it gets a little more violent than I think they had to go. And really? I don't mean with the monster fights. I was kind of fine with that. I mean with the humans. There's one scene in particular where there's a huge drag-out, knockdown fist fight. I didn't need that scene.
Really?
I really didn't.
See, I actually enjoyed that whole scene.
I am sick of that in these kinds of movies, man. I'm sick of, like everybody's got to resort to giant fist fights these days.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and the thing is, if it's warranted, if it's warranted by a like a character dynamic that I'm really invested in, I'm kind of okay with it. I was even more okay with it in the Star Trek movies.
I was gonna say,
than I was here, and I've
Kirk.
complained about it there.
Yeah.
But the thing was, we get the token two guys fighting on the same side who don't get along, and it's kind of a testosterone fest.
Yeah.
And I wasn't interested in that, and it was token, it was kind of obligatory, and I didn't need it. So when I had to sit there and watch those guys hit each other in the face for 5 minutes, that didn't work for me.
Now, a couple of things I'd like to mention.
Sure.
There was the classic female love interest.
Which worked fine for me.
It worked fine for me too, but you could tell that was very predictable.
But they didn't.
It was going that direction.
But they didn't play up the romance too hard.
They didn't play it up too hard. But that they.
I'm sorry. Can I say this real quick?
Yes.
I liked her.
I did too. I thought she was very cool. I will say this: that someone mentioned after the movie was over, they mentioned that it was kind of like a Godzilla movie. And I thought that was kind of really, really funny and apt. It did seem like that, especially since most of the movie takes place outside of Tokyo.
Well, were you not? No, Hong Kong.
Or Hong Kong, yeah. Excuse
me. Were you
me.
not thinking that the whole way through the film?
I was,
that they were borrowing from that. Yeah, but I'm just saying, but that's obvious. Like they're clearly borrowing from, like you said, all kinds of monster movies.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd like to also mention, speaking of over the top, this movie was. There is a lot of collateral damage.
Yeah.
And we're talking a lot. If you thought Man of Steel had collateral damage, this had quite a bit more, I felt.
I wouldn't have even thought of it like that though, because how are you gonna stop that? Like the monsters show up and they knock buildings over and you fight them.
They did it really well.
Yeah.
It looks extremely realistic, and you really feel like the sense that there is absolute destruction. Another thing that I really enjoyed, I had no idea that Charlie Day was in this movie. Charlie Day, I've seen him in a few other things. I really like him a lot. As soon as they don't show his face at first, but as soon as you hear his voice, you know who that is, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
And kind of your standard plucky comic relief, but I thought he was quite funny.
He was great. Yes, he was absolutely great.
And not too overbearing. I liked the role that he had to play for the story.
Right.
He was actually really integral to it, and
absolutely.
If you're gonna have a comic relief guy like that, I mean, I generally prefer it when they're not so obviously there for comic relief, but This guy plays a major role in figuring out the science behind some of the stuff that's going on. I also appreciate that there are some real science fiction ideas here, although I do think that it might have been... it's just not this kind of movie. I would have enjoyed a little bit more emotional dimension dealing with things like identity issues.
Yeah.
With
again, that would have been good.
We're connecting two people, and we need them both to have their minds completely linked to run these mechs. I kind of thought from the beginning, and I don't mean to project what I think the movie should have done. It doesn't even begin to go here, so it's okay. This is not what it wanted to do. But I did for a minute kind of wonder if there wasn't going to be even more of an AI component, where like the robot becomes a third part of that collective consciousness.
That's interesting.
And maybe we like imbue it with a little bit of self-awareness. It didn't go there. I kind of would have liked that, but you know, there were a couple of good science fiction ideas there.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that opening it up, and this is the reason I brought that up. I kind of thought opening it up that it was going to be just, there's an alternate dimension, these monsters come through, go. And they actually explain what that is. And I thought it was really kind of nice that we get all of that.
It was
the mythology's
definitely a good part. I will say this, this movie deals very much in connections, like you said, in connections between two people in duos. Brothers, brother-sister, the parent-son figure type things, and I thought that was really interesting. Lots of duos. So also when we get Charlie Day's character as he is, he's even got a counterpart, a duo, and I think that it definitely adds.
And then there's a
to
point where even the monsters start doing that.
Even the monsters start doing that, and there's a point where you find out something about the monsters and how they all interact with each other. The only person who really didn't have a duo was that over-the-top character. What was his name?
Oh, Ron Perlman's character?
Ron Perlman's character.
Yeah, that's true.
He was pretty much the loner. He
running a team.
He commanded a bunch of people underneath him for his role. But he was pretty much the only loner.
They go steal monster parts. It's hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really great.
Black market stuff.
Yeah, very quickly before we finish, about the monsters themselves, they got a lot of neon in them. I wondered what that was about.
And bioluminescence, too.
Yeah.
That was very interesting.
I guess that's what I mean when I say neon.
Yes,
you're right.
But it was lots of neon colors, but bioluminescence was big. Not in the original monsters, but in successive monsters.
Yeah, and I kind of wondered how they evolved it, how they got it.
I don't know, but that's for another day.
The idea of them adapting and getting stronger as the mechs keep fighting them, I thought was a great way to play this.
Yes.
I also loved the sheer number of them that we got and the surprises of what they could do.
Yes.
All of the different abilities that we get. There were a couple of points where Brandon and I both kind of looked at each other in astonishment and joy at a couple of what the monsters suddenly show you they could do. Because they would fight one for a while and then suddenly it was like, poof, they have this ability. And we were like, that's awesome!
But on that note, though, the main ability, the one ability that the one monster has that completely takes one of the mechs out and just destroys it, that was underused. Why could that monster not do that again?
Yeah,
he only did it one other time.
Like Rhodey said in Iron Man 2, he should have led with that.
Yeah. And I don't know why they didn't, because that would have just wiped out the mechs. Of course, that wouldn't make a movie, but it was there. It seemed like it was underused.
Clearly not a perfect film, but boy, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
I enjoyed it,
and
too.
I'm even considering going back a second time. I really loved it. Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching us review new movies. And did I put the right side?
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, boy, I second guessed myself. I was like, that'd be bad, wouldn't it? Anyway, thanks again, everybody, for watching. We sure appreciate it. Brandon, thanks for coming with me.
No problem.
We'll see something again next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
Do